Hey, sister.
Hey, Debs.
How you doing? You
Yeah,
all
I'm
right?
good. I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, not bad at all. Been looking forward to this chat because it's been a while, hasn't it?
It's been a long time. I've been in Mexico,
Hey.
and now it's boiling hot in Spain. I don't know about England, but it's really
Yeah,
disgusting.
it's kind of hot and cold, like typical English summer, you know. Um,
Yeah.
but it's nice. It's nice to, well, it's actually grey skies at the moment, but it's kind of nice to have some sun out and some warmer weather, so you're not having to wear jackets and stuff.
Yay, bring on the summer.
Yay, bring it on, indeed. So we are talking at the moment about narcissism. Well, we're talking on this chat about narcissism, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've written some bits down that I'd like to share with you, if that's all right with you.
Yeah.
About kind of the traits of a narcissist and what, you know, how to identify them, basically. Yeah. So let me just get my notes up. Right. Okay. So we should say hi to everyone else as well who's watching. It's been so long that
I know.
I've forgotten how to greet people. So hi, everyone. Thanks for watching.
Yeah. Hi, everyone who is
watching.
Hi, everyone who's
Okay.
watching. We have a Telegram group, which is like a little community where we share these videos and other information. And the Telegram group is called Bella Emotions, BELLA Emotion. So if you want to visit that page, you know, you'll get loads of info and intel on stuff that's happening, the light, the dark, everything that's happening in these current global times that we're living, which is super, super interesting, all about ascension, all about current global political stuff, everything, right, Debs?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Okay, tell us what you've got.
Right, so what I've written down and things to look out for. So narcissists are usually deeply wounded, and they're usually wounded by shame or guilt. They use anyone or anything to reinforce their low self-esteem. The narcissist sees their children as an extension of themselves. Their child exists solely to be of value, the greater benefit. So for their own purpose, basically. They don't care about their child's own emotions. It's all about the narcissist. Now, as I'm reading this, where I'm mentioning parent-child, you can relate this to the state or the government or pharmaceutical or the medical profession, right? You can kind of relate that as a parent body that sees us as children or something lesser than, yeah? Not that I think children are any lesser than us, by the way, as an empath. So a narcissist will use manipulation to prevent anyone from expressing their own needs. They view their kids as possessions and often have extremely close, exclusive and possessive relationships with them. The narcissist will have complete control over their child and will feel resentful and jealous if the child wants to break free from their clutches and create their own life. A narcissist will put the child down to make them feel inferior and worthless so that they struggle to maintain the level of confidence needed to exist independently. A narcissist will choose the favorite person, their favorite person, depending on what it is they have to gain. If the person is easily manipulated and doesn't question or look closely at any of their behaviors, the narcissist will see them as an ally to their game. A narcissist needs an energy to feed off. And if they have someone who is sensitive, an empath, it is highly likely that the person will become one who suffers the most. That will be the empath that suffers the most. A narcissist.
Can I just interrupt for a minute?
Yes, you sure can.
This also, so like how you're saying the child and the parent, and also on more like a larger view of it, you know, like the government and the people.
Yes.
It can also be the couple, the relationship, right? So
yeah, definitely, definitely. I'm getting to,
woman. Okay.
I'm getting to that as well.
Yeah.
Or woman and woman, because I've actually been in a relationship with a narcissist that involved a child, which is kind of why I've observed it as a parent-child, and I can now put that experience to what's happening with us now with government or elites. It's not just government, let's just say elites, because that is the energy that is kind of trying to be our parent, right? Like, let's meet up in Davos, we'll go in our private jets to discuss how the little ones, the little plebs, should live. Really? Who agreed to that? Because I didn't. Did you? It sucks the energy from the drama and suffering, taking great pleasure from this that they have caused. And the more sensitive a person is and how much pain they suffer, the more likely the narcissist is to keep up this suffering. Right, so traits of a narcissist: compulsive liars. They put people down and make them feel insignificant, neglect other people's needs, try to create a codependent relationship, has to be the center of attention, uses manipulation and gaslighting to create drama, acts as though they are always right and never takes responsibility for their actions, completely self-absorbed, will use anyone as a tool to gain financial wealth, material goods, or the use of people, has an excuse or an explanation for everything, will criticize constantly to pretend it is for the person's own good or the greater good if there's a threat amiss, right? So you need to take your injection because there's a serious virus out there that will kill us all if you don't, right? There are no boundaries. The parent feels as though they own complete access to all personal communication, including private emails, phone calls. Does this sound familiar? Private emails, phone calls, and a relationship. I've seen narcissistic parents that will always intervene in a relationship with their child. If their child's old enough, obviously, to have a relationship, they're kind of always, oh no, they're not good enough for you, or there's always something that they pick up on to just squash that, because actually you're my property and you're going to be doing running around for me and you're going to show me love. It's not going anywhere else. Tries to gain sympathy by pretending they are emotionally vulnerable, rules with an iron fist, so the person is in complete fear. Image, and I don't know whether you can relate this to a few DJs that we may know. Image is everything to a narcissist. So they so they will not appreciate anyone doing anything to damage it. They use emotional blackmail. Make people, I may have already said that, I may have already paraphrased this, but I'll say it anyway, makes the person or people feel as though they are not good enough, and they are extremely jealous and will sabotage people rather than see them do well. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, in a nutshell, that kind of describes a few of my exes.
Yeah, totally, right?
And also,
Totally.
it's funny, it's interesting how you started it with saying, okay, try and look at this as like the government, the system, and
Yeah.
how we've been controlled and we've been, you know, told what to do. And it's like it's our way or the highway with them, you know, with the system that we've lived in all this time. So it's kind of it's interesting how you're describing that the system is also has those narcissistic traits, and it's so true, you know. You know, even like the access of emails, you know. But for me, my experience, like with one of my ex-partners, the father of my child, he was very, very like that, very controlling, very jealous. He would put me down all the time. It's his way or the highway. Yeah, he would check emails. He would be constantly controlling communication. Like it was always my fault. You know, it didn't matter what I did. It was always my fault. And again, I was the empath, like you were mentioning. Normally the empath is the one that suffers most, right? Because you become kind of submissive to that person because you want to give them everything, and you hope for it to be better the next day. You hope for it to be better. And then you try and change that person, or you try and make it all good for them so that they're happy. And you know, and you also want to prove to them that you are good enough. You want to prove to them that you are worthy. And then it's like a vicious cycle, you know, and then you become the abused one, really, because they abuse you, you know. They can abuse of you. It can be emotional, psychological, physical. But, you know, psychological sometimes has much more damage than physical. But all in all,
totally get that. Well, when I was with one of my exes that involved her child, she had a child when I met her, who was 10. And obviously I never entered into a relationship with a child, you know, willy-nilly. I remember not wanting to meet her child until we actually knew that we were suitable for one another, because I thought that was the responsible thing to do. However, she kept pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing, because I think she could see the type of person that I am, that once I'm kind of hooked in with a child, I'm kind of not really going anywhere because I'm really old school like that. So it was narcissistic from the off, but I didn't realize what narcissistic behavior was. I don't think the word narcissism was really floating around back then either. It's relatively a new term that's kind of being used by people now. So it's very difficult to pinpoint something with someone that always has an answer and never takes responsibility and always gaslights you, because if you are an empath, you tend to think of, what could I do better? You always striving to become the best that you can be. So they kind of get you hook, line and sinker with that, I think. You know, what are you feeling on that?
Yeah, I think it doesn't matter what you do, and you try and impress them, or you try and do something to prove to them, and yeah, you're more vulnerable because we're from the heart, you know. And I found that they're very in their heads, you know, because their hearts are not open, because maybe possibly, I know he may have had traumas in his childhood that he never speaks about, and still to today he's he still continues being a narcissist. Like, you know, he doesn't speak about any of his past with his child, or, and you know, it's like, it's never his problem, it's never him. So yeah, it's the thing is, it's like a mental disease, isn't it? Because you can't, it's not something that, it's difficult, because someone who is like that won't go to a doctor and actually accept that they're like that, because they think they're totally normal.
Yeah, indeed.
They think they're fine. They think that there's no problem with them, and that's kind of half the problem, you know, with this narcissism, is that they don't even know they've got it. They don't even know that. Sorry, I got a bit of a cough.
It's all right. Take some water. If you can't see it, you can't heal it, right? So, and if they're not willing to sort of take a look at themselves, because as I said, like at the beginning of that list, it is actually considered as a personality disorder. That obviously needs healing. Yeah, at the beginning of the list that I read out, that the narcissistic trait is, it usually stems from a deep-rooted shame or guilt. So if it's that deep-rooted and that painful for them that they don't want to look at it, because if you have to look at yourself, then you're going to have to start looking at some of your shit, which me and you have spoke about in other chats, right? That we're quite comfortable looking at our shit because we know we're just trying to, you know, continually improve ourselves and be the best version of ourselves. Whereas a narcissist doesn't really want to go there. They like to keep it quite shallow.
It's almost like, you know how we have life lessons, and through our life experience, we learn a lesson. There's always a lesson to take. It's almost like they tend to like never learn a lesson. It's like they're stuck in a cycle. It's almost like they're blocked. You know, it's almost like they live in this fantasy that, you know, that nothing around them is to their standard. You know, nothing is enough for them. But it's like they feed off that. No, wouldn't you say? Like,
it is a very vampire-like energy, because they are feeding from, and I'm using these terms, and it completely relates to the last sort of awakening that we've had, and people are still beginning to have over the last couple of years. And I think, you know, people like myself and you, Emma, we've seen this for longer than 2 years, but it's kind of come to a head. So they do like the negative side and to feed off of that. Like it is like a vampire feeding off of that energy. It's that vampire locked in, blood sucking energy. It's really low vibrational way of being. So everything, I guess, if you feel low about yourself and you're not willing, or you have so much fear that you're not willing to look into what it is that makes you tick, or what it is that makes you behave in a particular way, then you're not going to grow. You want that low vibrational energy around you, because you feel that that's what your food is. That's what, you know, is going to make you feel better about yourself, I guess.
It's almost like instead of trying to peel the onion like we speak about, peeling the layers, you know, trauma by trauma, and looking back at our past and trying to figure out where things are coming from, it's almost like they don't want to go there, so that's totally blocked. It's almost like they feed off other people's energy, but it's almost like they kind of like to be in that dark side. It's almost like they feed off those low frequency vibrations of other people, and that gives them that gives them more power. You know what I mean? So it's a bit like a vampire. It's like a vampire. It's like the world we live in. It's the system, right? It's the same as the elite. They feed
totally a narcissist.
Like they feed off of our fear, and that's why they've had us suppressed. That's why they've had us like this, and this is why. I think that's exactly it. It's like they're not connected to source, and therefore they can never understand or even have a calling or even have faith to grow into something. There is no hope, I think, for someone who's like this and doesn't want to change. It's very they kind of feed off of that low frequency vibration, you know. Definitely.
I would disagree. I believe everything is connected to source. Whether they choose to believe that or not is another thing. But I must say that I've learned my biggest lessons about myself and the world we live in through living with a narcissist. I think it was just a huge learning. Would you not agree?
Oh, me too. I think I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about how to set my boundaries and how to love myself more, and how to understand that I am worthy, that I am good enough, that I can do, that I can do stuff on my own, that I am independent, that I don't need to depend on anyone, that I am useful. I think in that term, I learned a lot, and you learn from everything. And being around someone like that is like, wow, it's a learning curve for you. But what I mean is like, when someone is in that state, you know what I mean? Like when they're in that state, I don't know how many people that may be narcissists that have actually grown out of that. I guess there is a possibility for a narcissist to actually realize they're being that way.
Well, I think all of us can have narcissistic traits.
Yeah.
And why I think that is because we have been groomed in a narcissistic society. So for us not to have narcissistic traits or not own our narcissistic traits would be, I think that would just be a silly comment and a silly way of looking at life. However, I think the difference is, only an empath would say, I think we all have narcissistic traits. A narcissist wouldn't necessarily say that.
Yeah.
I think it's something that is learnt. I think people can become narcissistic if they've had a narcissistic parent, so they've been taught narcissism, and if they then go and find themselves a narcissistic partner, they kind of feel that that's the norm.
Yeah.
And that's how they should be treated, so then they kind of go along with these narcissistic ways, but they're not necessarily a narcissist. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's just in their programming, but they're unaware of it. So maybe they can learn through that if they're unaware of it, and it's not, it's not like, just being unaware of it. I was just thinking that actually there is possibilities of change. I think one of the ways, I have a friend of mine who had a partner who had those narcissistic traits, and he ended up with a woman that was also narcissistic. So he ended up being controlled by her. Do you know what I mean? It was like that energy came back to him, and then he was kind of submissive to her, and she was actually telling him how he wasn't good enough and he wasn't this and that. So it kind of turned around. Thank you, Danny. She's looking after me.
Oh, yeah. It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because I think we really need to grasp what narcissism is and how to identify it and how to deal with it. Now, with my ex, it was one of the hardest things to do because there was kids involved. because her daughter then, you know, had 2 children, and I kind of had to leave this environment when we had split up after 12 years, right? So it's quite a long time. And obviously I'd been in her daughter's life, watched her kids being born, and was very much part of that family unit. But I realized that she intended to use them as pawns. I referred to them, and still do refer to them, as grandkids. Every time I went to visit the grandkids, she would be present and would start creating a drama and an argument. And there was absolutely nothing to argue about. It was kind of really uncalled for. And I found it bizarre that the adults would be bringing this, 1, to her daughter's house, and 2, in front of the presence of her grandchildren. So I decided that I didn't want to go through this drama, and I didn't want to put the kids through what had gone through, her daughter. So I decided to not make contact. Really, 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 really difficult. But I feel that the only way to deal with narcissists is to just block them out and just completely not feed into them. There's no point in having an argument, or not even an argument, a discussion of reason with a narcissist, because they're unreasonable. They're completely unreasonable. So you're never going to win. It's not, win is the wrong word. You're never going to get your point across, and you're never going to come to sort of reasonable ground, a common ground between 2 adults for the sake of children. In this case, it was for the sake of children, or for the sake of greater good, let's say. So I found it was just easier to just shut the door, go and do my grieving for the kids, and let's just see what her daughter comes up with when she's kind of realised what the situation is, realise that actually I'm not the cause of the problem that has been sort of spewed at you for the last 12 years. And if I remove myself, maybe you'll see that actually these problems are still very much present in your life, and I am not part of your life. So, you know, it's a difficult one to deal with, but I do feel that it's worthwhile just shutting the door, no matter what you feel you've got to lose. Shut the door on that energy, because it does not serve anyone for the greater good.
I mean, it takes it takes a lot of courage, and it's hard to separate from someone when you know what you want it to really happen, and you want it to be okay, you know. But at an energetical point of view, it's the best thing to do, really, and that's kind of what I needed to do. And I had a daughter involved with him, and now it's like a business. It's like she's old enough to deal with him. She calls him directly. I don't get too involved, because basically I've done a lot of energy work as well, where I've cut the energy cords that I had with him. Yeah. So as you say, you have to shut the door. You have to shut the door from the energy sucker, because if you don't, then there's always a cord between you and that person. And it can be a cord that's, there is actually energy cords connected from our solar plexus, from our heart. It depends on what traumas and what you've had with that person in the past. But those cords are real.
And your own buttons, because a narcissist can find your buttons and push them to the nth degree, to your absolute limit.
Yeah, and it's because you also have an open connection. And that's why it's an easy access for them, because they've got you, they've got you clipped, right? So
totally.
The fact that you close the door.
We allow it. We totally allow it. You know, we totally allow it. So first you've got to own your own shit. When you own your shit and realize what your shit is and what their shit is, and you can kind of differentiate between that, whose shit is who, right? Then you can take your shit and go and deal with it. That's cool.
Exactly. It's like, basically, you know, we have big hearts. Us empaths have big hearts, right? But what I realize is that it's not just about the heart. And I had to learn how to work on my personal power, right? So having the strength to You know what I mean? To see my worth, having the strength to say no when I mean no, and to say yes when I mean yes. And it was a risk. It was a risk, because when if I go out raving, or if I went out, then when I split up from him, well, my daughter was like 11 months, and I knew I needed to, you know, well, we're going deep into stuff, but I don't care. I knew I was going to get some sort of abusing from him, but I wanted to leave, and I wanted that to happen so that I could then say, okay, I'm going to put a date down now, you know. So I went out with my friends, and then he was like, oh, you know, I took his car, and he's like, oh, come back at this time, because that's what they do. Bring me some weed, go and see this guy, and, you know, bring it home at this time. And I didn't go back. And I went to we went raving, and then I went to someone's house, had a cup of tea like you do, you know, chill out. And he was calling to see where I was. And he said, oh,
you was living, you was living your life,
yeah. Well, I would never go out. I lost contact with all my friends because he wouldn't let me go out. He was really controlling. So, but on that day, I was living, I was having fun, and I knew what was coming, but I was ready. I was ready because, you know, when you put a date down, actually, that's really important. If someone is trying to split up with a narcissist, if you set a date, it's really, really good, because it's like you organize everything until that date, and then that it's done, you know. But I had to find all the legal stuff behind him. I had to sort everything out so that I was ready to kind of literally like run away with my daughter. He was calling the police, say, oh, my car's been stolen, you know, like, because he wanted me to come back. And that's what his way of making me go back. You know, it's like, you know, I've called the police to say my car's stolen. And I was like, anyway, so I went back, and then it happened. And then that's when I set a date, and I knew that was the end of it. I knew that was my time to run away from him. And then, and then after that, once I did that, I picked up my strength. You know, I started loving myself more, and I started realizing how much I was worth. But I needed to cut those energies. You know, I needed to put my boundaries down. So that meant only contact via email, no more telephone. Because, you know, when you have a text, when they start texting you and they're being abusive or controlling, or if you enter into a conversation, if you enter into that question, if they're blaming you for having slept with somebody, or you know, all sorts of different horrible names, you know, if you enter into that game, you are then connected to that energetic cord. Do you see what I mean? So you're playing the game. So you need to, because basically you're lowering yourself to that low frequency vibration. The problem is with people who are narcissists is that they are living in a very low vibration, a very low frequency. It's all jealousy, anger, it's very low frequency vibration. And then if you're vibing at a high vibration, they suck off of that, and then you end up being in that same frequency as them. Because I ended up being the same way. I was jealous. I was like really weird.
Yeah, they teach this. Yeah, they teach you it. Because I was never jealous. I don't understand jealousy. To this day, I don't really understand why people have jealousy as an emotion in their portfolio. But she taught me what jealousy was, most definitely, and would also create situations for me to feel jealous. Like, just bizarre, really low vibration. And I just never saw the point of it. Either we're doing this relationship or we're not. It's cool. If we're not, I'll just fuck off. Do you know what I mean? It's like, no biggie. I'll be heartbroken, you know, the family environment and whatever. Okay, but I'll get over it. Yeah, it's very, very twisted and very dark energy, very controlling energy. I mean, for years, I was, you know, you're so angry about everything. No, firstly, at the beginning of the relationship, you never argue. It's not normal. Right? That was at the beginning of the relationship, because I wanted to sit down and talk things through. That was looked at as, I was told that was our normal. So I thought, right, okay, so maybe I need to express, because I know that sometimes I can be a little bit emotionless when the mood takes me. I'll just sort of sit down and be quite logical about things, and maybe that's not what you do in a relationship, because I hadn't had many long-term relationships. When I did start arguing, you're always angry.
Oh my God.
Right? So I took myself and my anger, suggested by her, to take up some CBT, right? It took like 2-3 sessions, yeah. And then I realized it's actually not me that's angry. You are the one with the issue, because all the tools that CBT, you know what CBT is, right? Cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yeah.
All the tools that CBT had given me, I was using, and she was seething, absolutely seething, that she wasn't pressing the buttons that she had to press before were unpressable. They wasn't there. I didn't have them for her to press. So I remember literally frothing at the mouth and being right up in my face to try and sort of gird me into an enragement. It was surpassing anger where she wanted me to go. It was enraged. Sometimes I would be enraged because she just would not let up. And after those sessions, I remember thinking to myself, because at the time I was also doing kinesiology as well, right? So I was clearing a lot through there, and a lot of stuff was coming up. But I do remember thinking, this is not me. I started to see it really for what it actually was. And things that she used to do just stopped bothering me. Like, I kind of knew that the relationship was done, but I was kind of there for the kids because I'd had a relationship with the kids. You know, I was the one that was doing the school run, as you could imagine, right? Yeah, the narcissist getting the empath to do all the work, and you're good, you're useful for this.
Oh God, don't even.
Yeah, right. Do you know what I mean? I think this is something that people that perhaps have succumbed to an injection, right? You're gonna feel a little bit stupid, because I did. After the relationship, I thought to myself, why the hell did you put up with this crap for so long? You could have just walked away. But actually, the person that I am I'm wild boar. That's my Chinese birth sign, right? So I'm very, very family orientated. Yeah. And I love kids. Any injustice as well, especially towards children, I'll smash it to pieces. Yeah. That's a classic wild boar trait. So I had to really get to learn myself and forgive myself for succumbing to this negative energy. And to also to take away blame and also own my own part in it. Own the fact that I allowed that behavior to take place towards me. Yeah. And that same person that I am that allowed that, I can heal myself from that. And I can take great learning from that situation. Yeah. And I'm sat here now knowing exactly why I now have a PhD in narcissism, right? Because it's completely out there in the world. This whole scenario is completely a narcissistic trait,
Yeah. I think I learned my lesson as well, but also it took me a while to recover from that relationship. It was only like it's probably about 3 years, but I'd had other relationships with men that weren't great. So not many, but the guys that I'd had in my life were, always abusive in some way, but, like maybe not narcissists, but just freaks,
Yeah, get it, Cal.
I mean, the first love of my life, unfortunately, he was schizophrenic, so he couldn't do much about it, but that was crazy. But what I'm saying is that it took me a while. When I came out of that relationship, I then met a beautiful man, and he was lovely, but I wasn't ready to love. I didn't know that at the time. It was more lust, you know, it was more like, oh, okay,
Mhm.
he's a good guy. I'll have him come in, right, into my reality. But I realized that it was really fast after that relationship. So when you've lived with men that don't allow you to speak, that have you like in some way submissive to them, because I was submissive to this man. And it's like, if I didn't do his food or if I didn't iron his clothes, it's like his hand would go up or he'd be angry, right?
Wow.
So it was like, he was South American, so it's the kind of traditions, that kind of way. And but I mean, I remember being pregnant and I had like one smoothie made for me. That was it. Just like, okay, so this is what it's like, right? So you know, my whole pregnancy, I was in a very low frequency, and hence that's why my daughter also had these very low beliefs about herself, because, well, she was in my womb, she took that on. But that's for another day. That's really interesting as well. But I when I started the next relationship after being with a narcissist, I realized that I had the traits of the narcissist.
Yeah, exactly.
I realized that I was the abused one, and that with this good man, I became the abuser. Not physical. I'm talking like, when you have been abused, you then become the abuser, because it's like, basically my throat chakra was completely blocked, because I was never used to being able to express my truth in front of a man, right? So this man was a good man and he was allowing me to express my truth. However, this was still blocked. He would, and also because he wouldn't lash out at me or put his hand up or whatever like that, I felt I was free to release my anger. So instead of it coming out of here, it would come out through my anger and through my body, and it would all be very, very confusing for him. So that's kind of what happened. After being with someone like that, you really need to clear your vessel. You really need to do the work and be with yourself and be with love before going into any other relationship, because it's all about self-love, which is what we talk about all the time, and filling up your cup with the energy or the water that has been literally, you know, drained out of you. Filling it up, giving and giving and trying to prove because you're now empty. After being in that relationship, you're now empty, and even just crawling out of that relationship is super hard to do, and takes a lot of courage and takes a lot of guts, especially women out there and men out there that are being physically abused. Because, you know, it's scary. You don't know where to go. You know, I sorted all my legal stuff out while he was at work. I would do all of the paperwork. It was all ready. So when I left and I ran away with my daughter, I then had a letter coming to the house saying, you know, a restricting order. Like, I had it all in place. But you need to do things, you know, you need to do those things and take the action towards that, and then just flow with it and go through the emotions. You just need to go through the emotions. And what I've learned as well is that, you know, even those negative emotions, even that low frequency vibration that I was living in, has made me understand where I want to be today. It's like what you were saying. It's made me understand what I want and what I don't want. I don't want to live in that low frequency. I don't want drama in my life. I don't want to be, you know, in that drama. I don't want to feel that energy. That energy is not something that does me good. And I know that now. So that's why I just want to be with joy. I want to be with love.
Yeah, totally. There's a saying, when your hand's in the lion's mouth, withdraw it very slowly. So that sounds very much like what you were doing.
Well, you have to have everything very particularly organized, especially when someone is so controlling and scary, or, do you know what I mean, abusive, or it's scary because you don't want to tell everybody. But sometimes it's good to reach out to family members. I didn't tell anyone anything for years. I didn't tell anyone anything with the love of my life either. And he was, you know, he was schizophrenic, and that was for 2.5 years. But I never told anyone, and I just held it all in. But actually, it's okay to reach out to family, because family, you know, when it's a situation like that, you mustn't worry about being judged, because that's what your partner is making you feel. But that's not your family and friends. you know, you have to reach out to other people to help you in this situation, or at least to support you, you know. And even sometimes it is true that when you're in this kind of thing, you know, sometimes it's a spiral. You have friends that keep talking about their relationships and they go on and they don't change, they don't make a change. But it's up to each and every one of us, if we are with a person with these traits, to make that decision. And it's only when you've had enough that you actually blow. Yeah. And you do it, right? But it's up to you. Nobody can do it for you. It's up to you. But you have to know as well that there is people out there that will support you if you need that help, you know?
Yeah, I was actually really surprised when myself and my ex split up, as to how many people, one, didn't like her, but we just kind of like butter, you know, sort of buttoning it, because, you know, I seemed happy. Yeah, I was kind of happy in the family unit, right? But yeah, it was an eye-opener for sure. And how many people that were actually there and quite supportive at the end of it. It was definitely an eye-opener.
Well, the thing is that, sorry, Debs, the thing is that when you're in the relationship with that type of person, they control you to a point that you can no longer perceive clearly.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. You can't see the tree for the woods.
So you can't perceive clearly because you're in their energy. You're literally with them. You're in them. Like literally, they are dense,
isn't it? It's a dense energy, so you can't really see clearly through a dense energy.
You can't see clearly until you're totally empty. So through that time, family members, friends, they can say what they want. You ain't gonna listen. You're not gonna get it. You're not gonna get it because you're in love with this person and you're an empath, and you just want to be with that person. And actually, and that's why they might not say anything. But when you say to your loved ones, actually, I've had enough, this is what's been happening, they will probably, you know, that's what happened to me. They were all like, oh my God, no one could stand him.
Yeah.
I could see how he was treating me, and like but they wouldn't say anything to me. But then I understood that afterwards. Yeah.
And it may not be a case of that you're very much in love with them. It may be a case of they've actually built up a codependency.
Yeah, that's what it was. That's what it is. That's what it is.
Right? They've built up a codependency that you think you need this. It's so twisted.
It's very twisted.
So twisted. My God, it's so twisted. Yeah.
And you can't say that it's love, because the thing is that they have you in that low frequency. So you are believing that you are not good enough. You're believing everything they're saying to them, everything they're saying to you, and you're trying to prove yourself that that's not true. But actually, you're believing it. It's your perception on yourself. So it's not possible that you even love yourself. Never mind loving them.
Yeah.
You're codependent, as you say. That's exactly what it is. It's codependence.
And if we relate this from our own experiences, right, Emma, if we relate this to the current systems that we have, whether it's Spanish government, British government, US government, I'm sure most governments around the globe act in the way where there's certain things that we can't do through fear of blah, 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 right? Like many people have taken, oh, dude, I'm going to have to...
It's all right, babe, don't worry about it.
Jib jab. Many people have taken firstly, it was this deadly virus. And then it was the fact that they couldn't go on holiday, right? Then it was the fact that they couldn't perhaps see relatives, or perhaps that they couldn't go to work and earn a living. Like, I have a friend, she's a choreographer, and I can't imagine her doing anything else. That is her, it's in her blood. If you take that away from her, I think you would have just cut the person in half. And it's not really a job, she loves it with an absolute passion, right? So yeah, she went and got it done and totally regretted it. But explained to me, like, I kind of had to do it because I'm self-employed and it's hard enough to get work as it is. So I just wouldn't have got any work. That's shit. It's just shit where they've placed people in this fear state of not being able to do the careers that they love, not being able to see relatives, not being able to travel. If perhaps travel is your thing, I really miss travel. Things are opening up again now. I think they're trying to sort of make it a little bit difficult wherever they're trying to make it difficult, but that would have been a reason why people would have got the jab. So,
well, everyone's been jabbed now, so they're not that bothered about the whole rules anymore.
In what sense? Sorry.
No, what I'm saying is that a lot of the airports are now kind of easy with it because everyone has had the jibby jab. So
yeah,
you know what I mean? That was kind of the end game, was to get everyone jibby jabbed.
Yeah, well,
but
a huge majority have, but the likes of myself and you haven't.
Most, a lot of people.
Basically, I was just relating the narcissistic relationships that we've had and the experience that we've had with our narcissistic exes, and mirroring that into our patriarchal society that has been quite narcissistic towards its subjects. Can't stand that word either. There's so many words we've got to unlearn, but that's
in every way, and it's like they're always constantly maintaining us in fear. If you don't do this, you're gonna get that. And if you don't do that, you're gonna do this. And if you do something creative or something out of the box, it's like, you can't do that. You're no good. That's not good. That's not good enough. That's not right. Like the universities, if you do something totally out of the box, they're going to tell you that that's not right, and you need to go through the sausage factory.
Yeah, do you know what I mean, right? I'm just thinking about all those doctors that got struck off, right, for speaking their truth, for sticking to their oath and saying, no, this isn't right, this isn't one of those word, it's an experiment.
It's gene therapy,
right? It's a bloody experiment, and there's a possibility this could cause harm. I'm not 100% sure this is the way we should go forward in order to cure something that isn't, or provide a solution or cure, or a method of wellness towards something that we haven't even isolated yet. So I'm not sure.
And these are people that I've studied in the same system, but they're doing it from the heart, and they're just helping because they're realizing, hang on a minute, this isn't right. But silence them, take away everything they have, threaten them. That's what they've done. That's what they've done. It's very narcissistic in some way, the way they do things. Everything is like Antichrist. It's like everything is the other way. Everything is
twisted.
It's like, we are better than you. It's all very kind of low frequency vibration, and they it's like they feed off of that. They feed off of us and maintaining us like that, and that's exactly what it's like in a relationship. And I think a lot of these narcissists, again, as you were saying, it comes from their past or from their childhood, where they've maybe felt, maybe they were really, really spoiled, or maybe they were just they had narcissistic parents, and that's why they think it's normal to be this way, because they can't see that they're wrong. They're never wrong. Mm-hmm. You're always wrong. They're never wrong. Mm-hmm. And it's like that, but that's when, this is when you separate from them, that the moment that you decide that it's not about being wrong or right, and that it's more about standing in my power and being in my presence and loving myself and creating your boundary. And that's when you start
being in your truth.
Yeah, you start disconnecting from them in some way. But that's a lot of work to do, when you've been around someone for so many years. That's a big thing to do. But right now, that's needed.
What humanity is doing right now. That is what humanity is doing.
Yeah, we need to disconnect from that, and that's what a lot of us are doing. That, and a lot of us are realizing that we are much more than what we've been told. That we are super powerful. That we are super beings, you know,
Yeah.
and that we don't need medicine, that we can heal our body through just doing the energy work and releasing all the traumas that this system has literally, you know, programmed us, has basically put these, you know, low frequency belief systems in our bodies, you know, and does not allow us to perceive in the right way. This is the time for us to clear that out. It's the time for us to clear that out, whether it's a relationship or whether it's just a relationship with life, because you were brought into it. We were all brought into it. So we need to do the work, you know. It's looking back and just releasing all of that stuff to be able to see clearly and actually realize, oh my God, you know, I can actually look up and see the unlimited possibilities. I am possible, not impossible. I am possible.
I am enough. I am enough.
Yeah, I am enough. I am good enough. I am love. I am light. I am so much more than the shadows and the shit that they're telling me.
I am a sovereign being. Yeah, we could go on, right? Even down to the names that we've been given and what they represent, as we've spoke about in our sovereignty chat.
Yeah. So Debs, what about this? What about this? This is a good question. What would you recommend someone do to build their strength if they've been around someone like that?
If they've been around a person like that, or the system we're in, a person?
Well, maybe both. Maybe start with like at a personal, an individual level, and then maybe like how what would you recommend for them to detach from the system?
So on a personal level, I think it's really difficult when there's kids involved, right? When there's young kids involved. I think you were very brave to do what you did, by the way, and well done for doing it, because you've got a wonderful relationship with your daughter and she's growing fabulously. Yeah, so you've done the right thing. Yeah, I think you've got to kind of just shut the door on it, haven't you? Like we've said, there's no room for discussing anything on common ground with a narcissist, because you're always going to be in the wrong. So as a human being that is sovereign, that is enough, you know, that has a good soul, a good heart, why would you want to engage with someone that feels, firstly, lesser about themselves, and therefore are unable to even meet you on your level? And it's not about, you know, I'm better than them. It's really not about that. If you've really tried with this person and you just can't meet on common ground, and you're not even in the same building, let alone the same page, so what, you're not really going to go anywhere with it. You know, you're not going, there will come a point where you've learned enough from this situation, you've given enough to this situation, and this situation's never going to change. So you just really need to just close the door on it.
Can I just say one thing? Can I just say one thing, Dad? Also, it comes from insecurity. When people are like this, it's insecurity. They're so insecure about themselves that they latch on and hold on to anything they can to make them feel more secure, basically. They look at the exterior and they find from the exterior to feel better, to feel more secure themselves. But it all comes from fear and insecurity. Sorry, continue with what
you're coming from a narcissistic point of view.
Yeah. I just forgot to mention about narcissism and people who are, you know, narcissists, that it comes from insecurity within them.
Totally. I also feel, did you ever find that it's almost like they want to make you feel inferior so they feel superior?
Yeah.
Right?
Definitely.
We've kind of paraphrased that.
Continue what you were saying. Sorry, babe, I interrupted you because we were talking about an individual level, like what would you recommend? And then also like with the system, what would you recommend?
Well, I kind of finished what I was saying about on an individual level. I mean, you do just have to shut the door on it. You're not going to be able to go anywhere with someone that isn't making an effort to love themselves and to be reasonable with themselves they're not going to be reasonable with you. It's impossible. You're asking the impossible. And it's kind of the same with the system too, right? Like, there's certain things that we need to shut the door on. Things like, there's a lot of things that are coming up. I'm sort of doing some research on various bits. There's so much information out there, but, you know, things like it's supposed to be a fraudulent act, right? But then we're told that this is what, we haven't entered into any contract, okay? But yet we're told we need to pay it because otherwise they'll put us in prison. Really? Well, if we didn't sign into a contract, then how does that work, right? So we need to learn the language that this particular narcissistic trait is telling us what we should do and how we should act. We need to learn how to unravel the twist, basically, yeah? Because they spew loads of language at us, which is gobbledygook, made up language, right? That they use to confuse us in order to make us feel like, oh, well, you know, if we don't pay tax, what about the rubbish collection or the lights or whatever they say tax is for? I mean, for me, I wouldn't mind paying tax if it meant that youth centres were open for kids to get kids off the street, especially here in London. Old people didn't have to go cold or hungry. Great, I'd pay into that. That sounds like a really good deal to me. But that's not the case. That doesn't happen. So it's about learning, and it's about seeing it for what it is. It's about knowing that actually, if I don't pay this council tax, the world isn't going to fall apart and I'm not a bad person because I don't pay it. The same could be said for electricity and gas. Who owns electricity and gas? And I've had this conversation with a few people and they say, yeah, well, it's the energy board and it's this and that. And they, you know, they've got this imaginary scenario that we've all been told, and it's all bullshit. It's absolute bullshit. I mean, if God wants me to pay him, her, yeah, sweet, no problem. But I don't think our money would be worthy. Do you know what I mean? Like, we need to remove our hand from the lion's mouth very carefully. So we need to do the research on it. But I believe that all these systems that we've got that we pay into, we are actually now feeding the beast. I have knowledge, enough knowledge to know that by paying this, I'm feeding the beast that's suppressing us. So we have to learn the language of this beast to be able to remove ourselves from these scenarios and situations. You know?
Learn how it works, you mean? Yeah. Learn how it works. Learn how the system actually works, to then be able to detach from it, to then be able to, through your daily lives, perhaps do things in a different way. And if we all do that, then we'll start seeing that difference, you know, and it's like we'll start feeling more sovereign, more standing within our power as a system, you know.
Hopefully. And yeah, not feeling like you're not a good citizen because you're not, again, paying in tax. It's why have we been made to feel like this? Why is it we're the only beings? I've had this conversation for some years now. Why is it we're the only beings that pay to live here? And I'm a great believer in nature teaching us all that we need to know. Nature is a phenomenal teacher, and everything in nature is just being. It doesn't pay to live.
I mean, yeah, you wouldn't imagine the amount of times that I've looked at my dog and I just keep thinking that I just wish I was a dog.
Oh, and she's super cute too.
And just for the reason she's like, you know, stretch out of the bed, downward dog, you know, have a little bowl, look at mum and maybe make sure I get a biscuit. Oh, I'll go back to the living room, just have another chill. You know, but yeah, I mean, wouldn't it be amazing that we could live like animals?
Yeah.
And have that free flow of communication. There's rules and regulations for everything. And I think that's what happens when you're in a relationship with someone who's a narcissist. There's rules and regulations for everything. You can't move without being told what to do. You can't do something without being told that that's not good enough. You need to do it this way. You need to do it that way. So, I mean, I would recommend the similar stuff. I think detaching from the system is actually knowing the system, know how the energy of that system works, and what energy holes there are where the system is sucking out of you, and perhaps say no to that. Where is the system making you feel guilty? Where is the system making you feel like you're not worthy? Where is the system making you feel, you know, those low vibrations? And perhaps, you know, avoid that. Say, actually, no, I'm not going to do that because I don't want to, you know? Or, you know, and the same thing in a relationship. It's like knowing where it's actually affecting your body and where it's affecting your way of being, and, you know, knowing how to put your boundaries down. And perhaps if you're in a relationship with somebody like that and you have nowhere to go, maybe just starting by just finding a space, even if it's in a bathroom, just finding a space where you can start practicing meditation so you can come out of the mind, because this is mind control when you're with someone like that. Totally. And also, you know, the system is the same. It's mind control. They have you with the anxiety of the future. They have you with the depression of the past and all of the stuff that you've gone through. And the only way, the only way of like coming out of that is having the mind still and focusing on the heart and allowing the light to shine within your heart and feeling stronger and stronger as you do that. And then being able to step out and, you know, expressing your truth, you know, and connecting with your power and taking action wherever you may need to take action, putting that date down if you need to do that, you know, speaking to those family members, to those friends, how you feel. Same with the system. If you don't feel like you're agreeing with the system and you're sitting down with a family member and they're like totally the other way, you can still express your truth. You know, and if they don't want to hear that, then perhaps you detach yourself from that, because that again is the energy that you may not want to connect with at the moment, which is the programming and the mind control from that system. Because your family members are also feeling that, you know, they're still also mind controlled by this whole system that we live in. So if you want to come out of that, it's finding like-minded people to connect with. Those are the changes you need to do, right? And going into what is ascension, going into what are dimensions, going into spiritualism, going into, oh, how do I work on myself? How do I release all this tension in my body? You know, how
it's going back to, you can't, if you can't see something, you can't heal it, right? What you're saying is, you know, the relationship that we have with these systems that have been put in place to control us, we need to see them. We need to see them. We need to heal it. We need to heal ourselves. We need to unlearn all the shit that's been spewed to us through schooling and you know, politics and whatever, you know, television and all that, you know, the movies, even down to the movies, right? It's all scripted shit that feeds and programs us, yeah? Television has programs on it. They're not called programs by accident or by coincidence. They are programming you. Yeah, so it's about seeing that and really making it turn around for yourself, because that's when you're going to start your ascension. When you start seeing this and healing it and unlearning the crap that's been fed to us, that's when the ascension starts.
That's what that's why it's just like being conscious of when a film doesn't resonate. You know, some of these Hollywood movies, they just got these really horrible, dirty jokes with children and really off-key stuff. And you can sense it when you're very intuitive to, like, you know, when you're with joy and your heart is open, you can feel it. And then, you know, just saying no to that Hollywood movie, then I'm going to watch something else, you know, stepping up and making those changes and consciously realizing, oh, actually, I'm going to switch off the radio because they're constantly telling me what to do. It's mind control. The radio is mind control. They're constantly telling you, oh, come and take this, or oh, monkeypox, or I don't know what they're saying in England now, but like, I'm sure they have something. I'm sure they have
Cocoa
something.
Pops. I've got Cocoa Pops.
Yeah, I'm sure they have something to keep you in fear, like, oh my God, I gotta do this. Just like, you know, just switch it off. Say no. I switch that off. I switch the TV off, and I say no to that system. And that is how we say no to these narcissistic traits of a system that we live in. And again, yeah, just being conscious. And that's why it's important to move from the 3D density where we feel these energies and these low frequencies, and moving into the 5D frequencies, which are more of joy, expansion, love, unity. Yeah, and that's kind of where we are working our way through, right, Debs? Like, we're trying to live that life. It's difficult because it's dense, right? We live in a dense society, so, you know, but more and more
about lighter though. It's getting lighter. It's getting much lighter.
It's getting lighter.
10 years ago, 5 years ago, 20 years ago, it's getting much lighter. You can have. What I'm finding is that the conversations that we're having, I can have with more people now. It's like, wow, cool.
Yeah, I think people are more open to listen to this now.
Yeah.
Because they this last 2 years have been really like, wow. I mean, but this is the great awakening. This is the moment where people are awakening, and also the energies on the planet are literally tapping into your heart. Like, there's no way back. Like, your heart has to open now.
Yeah.
You know, and if it doesn't, then you're gonna stay behind, right?
Yeah, babes. Yeah, baby.
All right, lovey. It's been lovely to speak to you.
Likewise, my love. So 5D is where we want to be.
5D is where we want to be. Yeah, baby. If anybody wants to do some online dance, you know, check me out on my Telegram as well, Amazee_music. I do online dance, a lot of music stuff. And then also join us on Bella Emotions for more intel and info on stuff that's happening in the world that the TV is not going to tell you.
Yeah, indeed. And if anyone wants to embark on some quantum touch healing, give us a nudge. You can contact me via debbiegiles.com, or you can contact me in person at Bella Emotion. So if you haven't already liked, shared, subscribed, please do so. And thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching, guys. Bye.
Bye. Ciao, Bella.
Ciao.